Hi, I'm Mark Peter Hughes, author of the book Lemonade Mouth, and as promised, I am going to read the beginning of Lemonade Mouth 2, the book sequel, which is called Lemonade Mouth Puckers Up. Chapter 1, Olivia, a pebble tossed into still water. Dear Naomi, looking back, I can honestly say that I felt the trouble coming before it even arrived. As you know, I sometimes get feelings about these things. And I guess a part of me realized that summer vacation was starting off too well. Things were far too good to stay that way. I just finished my chaotic freshman year and was looking forward to 2 quiet, predictable months of reading in my backyard, gathering shells on the beach and relaxing with my grandmother and our 13 cats. My only real responsibility was to help out with my grandmother's mail-order printing business, which she runs from our house. But I knew that would actually be kind of fun. Most of all, I was looking forward to hanging out with my Lemonade Mouth friends. For a couple of weeks, the 5 of us had been meeting by the Mail's organic lemonade machine at school, trying to record some new songs that Wen and I wrote. Mrs. Resnick had worked it out with Mr. Brannigan so we could use the space when we needed it. But you remember all this as well as I do, Naomi, because you and Lyle were there too, hanging out with us and helping arrange the microphones and all the other gear. Remember how long it took Lyle to set up Wen's mic that first session? How Lyle kept switching the angle and trying out different effects on his laptop until it sounded just right? Stella didn't say a word, but it was obvious she was about to burst with impatience because her jaw was clenched and her face was turning red. Mo and Charlie nearly fell over themselves trying not to laugh. But Lyle is a perfectionist. It's part of why those recordings turned out the way they did. Even Stella admits that now. I now recognize those were special days. A brief moment of happy calm like the still surface of a pond just before someone throws a pebble into the water. In a way, it was my own fault that everything changed. Stella and the others had been trying to get me to agree to perform live again, but the thought of going back to singing in front of a crowd of people I didn't know, well, the idea still sent my insides into knots. If I hadn't eventually relented, maybe everything would have turned out differently. If I'd said no, and Lemonade Mouth hadn't shown up to perform a 1-hour outdoor set at the 17th Annual Music Fest in Cranston, my tranquil summer plans might have remained undisturbed. But of course, that's not what happened. As everyone knows, it was at the Music Fest, immediately after we played our set, that our lives were forever altered. It was a Sunday, a beautiful June afternoon. A pretty big crowd showed up to hear us, and I remember it was an especially fun show. We opened with Monster Maker and then Back Among the Walls, and the audience was really getting into it. People were jumping around and dancing and singing along. By our 2nd or 3rd song, I was having such a good time that I forgot to be nervous. But I also remember noticing a blonde lady in a bright pink business suit near the back of the crowd. She stood out because of her clothing and because she was just standing there watching us. Every now and then, she seemed to scribble something on a pad of paper as if she were taking notes. With so much chaos going on around her, it seemed weird. When our set ended, the 5 of us started breaking down our equipment. As I often did, I went over to help Charlie with his drums. It always took him a while to pack them all up. Anyway, I was helping him out when I noticed the pink-suited lady walk up to the edge of the stage. "Nice show," she said to us. "The crowd really liked you." "Thanks," Mo answered. She was lowering her bass into its big gray case. We were trying to move fast since there was another act scheduled to play after us. "No, I mean, I'm really impressed," the woman said. "Your music is wild and different, and it's not often I see a band inspire this much devotion from its fan base. Do you always draw such a big crowd when you play, and do you always get such a strong reaction?" I looked out at the crowd again. As I remember it, the place really was packed with people, and the whole crowd had been dancing and singing along, many of them sitting on each other's shoulders to get a better view of the stage when we'd played. A lot of them seemed to know all the words to our songs. Sure, some of them were our friends from school, but most of them were total strangers. Yeah, I guess so, Mo said, glancing again at the crowd that was already shrinking now that our part of the show was over. It seems like people like us anyway. That's good. It's impressive, the woman said again. The energy from your audience makes your performance feel like more than just a local show. What I just saw felt bigger, much bigger. She reached into her blazer and pulled out a business card. My name is Jennifer Sweet. I work for Earl Decker at the Decker & Smythe Talent Agency. Mr. Decker is interested in Lemonade Mouth. Decker & Smythe? Stella asked. Until then she didn't seem to be paying much attention to Mo's conversation, but now she moved nearer and looked over Mo's shoulder at the card. She stared at it. When Charlie and I stepped closer too. I have to admit, at the time I didn't understand the significance of what was going on. I'd heard the name Decker & Smythe, of course, but I didn't really know much about it. Stella must have seen that on my face. Don't you get it? She asked. You gotta be kidding me, Olivia. Decker & Smythe? It's only one of the most important talent agencies in the history of the music industry. They represented some of the biggest, most successful bands ever. Devin and the Hellraisers? Monica Maybe? The Deadbeat Finger Waggers? Exhibit A? The Church Ladies? You've heard of them, right? I nodded. Those were all rock and roll giants. Well, there you go. Earl Decker was there when it all began. He's like, well, he's a legend. The woman nodded, but her serious expression didn't change. Mr. Decker saw the video clip of what happened at Catch a Rising Star, and he sent me down to check you out in person. You guys are onto something here. If you're interested in seeing how far you can take this, call the number on that card. We'd like to set up a time to talk. Before any of us had a chance to respond, Ms. Sweet had already left the edge of the stage and was disappearing through the crowd, hurrying toward the parking lot as if she was late for another appointment. The five of us were left standing there, staring at the little white card. It was only a piece of paper, and yet, like a pebble tossed into a pond, its effect was about to send ripples across our universe, setting off the strange series of events that followed and forever altering our lives. We didn't know it yet, but things were not about to go in a direction anybody would have thought. Certainly not us. And certainly not Decker & Smythe either. Lemonade Mouth had just begun a bumpy ride to a place none of us could have predicted. Don't forget to pick up the book Lemonade Mouth from bookstores. Just keep rolling.